In the last episode, Amara visited Fatima's salon, pretending to check on her, but her real purpose was to find out what happened to her sister, Adeyabi. Fatima acted calm and innocent, but Amara couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. As she left the salon, she felt Fatima's cold eyes watching her, and a chill ran down her spine. Amara knew that she needed to find out the truth, no matter what it took. Amara walked quickly down the street, her heart racing. Her hands were shaking, her mind buzzing with questions. The way Fatima had looked at her, those cold, empty eyes, they didn't belong to a grieving friend. They belonged to someone who was hiding something. Someone who was lying. She turned the corner and almost ran into Uchenna. He was standing by his old, red car, his arms crossed, his face serious. Uchenna was a journalist, and he had been friends with Adeyabi since they were children. He was also the only person who believed Amara when she said something wasn't right about her sister's death. "Amara," Uchenna said, his voice low. "Did you find anything?" Amara looked over her shoulder, making sure no one was watching. She grabbed Uchenna's arm and pulled him closer. "I just left Fatima's salon. I pretended to be checking on her, but I was really trying to see if she would slip up." Uchenna's eyes widened. "And? Did she say anything?" Amara shook her head, frustration tightening her chest. "No. She was too calm. It was like she didn't care at all. But there was something in her eyes. Something to it. I can't explain it, but I felt it." Uchenna frowned, his eyebrows knitting together. "Do you really think she had something to do with Adeyabi's death?" Amara's eyes flashed with anger. "I know she did. I don't know how, but I can feel it. It's too much of a coincidence. Adeyabi was fine until she went for that special treatment with Fatima. The next day she was sick. And then, she was gone." Uchenna looked down, his shoulders heavy with sadness. "I miss her too. I want answers just as much as you do. But we need proof. We need to find out what really happened." Amara took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. "I know. But how do we do that? Fatima isn't going to just confess. She's too smart." Uchenna's eyes narrowed, a spark of determination lighting up his face. "We investigate. We ask questions. We find out if anyone else had a special treatment from Fatima before they got sick." Amara's eyes widened. "You think there might be more victims?" Uchenna nodded, his face grim. "It's possible. If we can find a pattern, we can prove that it wasn't just bad luck. We can prove that Fatima is responsible." Amara's jaw tightened, her eyes burning with anger. "Then let's do it. Let's find out the truth." They got into Uchenna's car, the old engine sputtering as it came to life. Uchenna drove them to the neighborhood church, where most of the community gathered to pray and talk. If anyone knew about strange deaths or illnesses, it would be here. As they walked up the steps, Amara's heart was pounding. She felt a mix of hope and fear, not knowing what they would find. Inside the church, the air was cool and quiet, the walls echoing with the soft murmur of voices. Women sat in groups, talking in low voices, their faces serious. Amara recognized some of them as mothers who had lost daughters recently. She felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Was it possible that they had all been victims of Fatima's special treatment? She walked up to Mama Nkechi, an older woman with a kind face, her eyes sad and tired. "Good afternoon, Mama Nkechi," Amara said, her voice gentle. "I'm so sorry about your daughter. I know you're hurting." Mama Nkechi's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, my child. Chisholm was my only daughter. She was so full of life, so beautiful, and then, she just fell ill. It happened so fast. One day she was fine, and the next, she was gone." Amara's heart skipped a beat. Did she get her hair done before she fell ill? Maybe, at Fatima's salon. Mama Nkechi's eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. Yes, she did. Fatima was so kind. She gave Chisholm a free hair treatment as a gift for her wedding. She even closed the shop, just so it could be special, just for Chisholm. Amara felt a cold chill run through her body. Her hands were shaking as she looked at Uchenna, his face pale with shock. "That's exactly what she did for Adeyabi," Amara whispered, her voice trembling. "It's the same story." Mom Nkechi's eyes filled with confusion. What are you saying? Are you saying that Fatima had something to do with Chisholm's death? Amara hesitated, fear gripping her heart. She didn't want to cause more pain, but she needed answers. I don't know yet, Mama. But something isn't right. I just need to find out the truth. Mom Nkechi's shoulders slumped, her eyes hollow. If you find out what happened, if you find out who took my daughter from me, please tell me. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I promise. They left the church, their hearts heavy with sorrow and anger. Uchenna's face was pale, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly as he drove. That's 2 brides now. 2 girls who went to Fatima's salon for a free treatment and never made it to their weddings. Amara's voice was cold, her eyes hard. There could be more. We need to find out how many girls got Fatima's special treatment, and how many of them died. Uchenna nodded, his jaw clenched. We need to find out what she's doing to them. How she's doing it. Amara looked out the window, her eyes narrowing. And we need to stop her before she does it again. They spent the next few days talking to people, asking questions, putting together pieces of the puzzle. They found out about 2 more brides who had died mysteriously after visiting Fatima's salon. They had the same symptoms: sudden fever, weakness, and then... Uchenna took notes, his pen flying across the paper. This is no coincidence. There's a pattern. All of them were young, beautiful brides. All of them went to Fatima's salon. And all of them died suddenly, right before their weddings. Amara's hands were shaking, her heart racing. We need to go to the police. We need to stop her before she does this to anyone else. Uchenna's eyes darkened. We need proof. The police won't believe us without proof. We need to catch her in the act. Amara's chest tightened, fear curling in her stomach. How do we do that? Uchenna looked at her, his eyes cold and determined. We set a trap. Amara's eyes widened, her heart pounding. A trap? What do you mean? Uchenna's face was serious, his voice low. We need someone to go to her, to pretend to be a bride, and catch her in the act. Amara's blood ran cold. She knew what he was saying. She knew who he was talking about. Ni, she whispered, her voice shaking. Uchenna's eyes were hard. It has to be you. Amara's heart stopped, fear freezing her body. She looked at Uchenna, his face set, his eyes burning with determination. Would she be able to do it? Would she be able to face Fatima and survive? Amara sat in Uchenna's old car, her heart pounding. Her hands were sweaty, her chest tight with fear. She couldn't believe she was actually doing this. She couldn't believe she was about to walk back into that salon, pretending to be just another customer, pretending to trust Fatima. But she had to do it. It was the only way to find out the truth. Uchenna looked at her, his eyes serious. Are you sure you want to do this? We can still call it off. We can find another way. Amara shook her head, her jaw set. No. This is the only way. If I don't do this, Fatima will keep getting away with it. She'll keep killing innocent girls. I have to stop her. Uchenna's face softened, his eyes full of worry. I don't want anything to happen to you. I already lost Adeabi. I can't lose you too. Amara's heart twisted, pain shooting through her chest. She missed her sister so much it hurt to breathe. But that pain was the reason she had to do this. I'll be careful. I promise. Uchenna took a deep breath, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I'll be right here watching. If anything goes wrong, I'll come in. Just give me the signal. Amara nodded, her fingers curling into fists. I will. Don't worry. I'm ready. She opened the car door, stepping out into the sunlight. Her legs felt weak, her heart racing, but she forced herself to walk towards the salon. She forced herself to keep her head up, her face calm, even though every step felt like walking towards danger. The bells above the door chimed as she walked in, the familiar sound making her stomach twist. The salon looked the same as always, clean and bright, with colorful posters of smiling women with perfect hair on the walls. Everything looked normal. But Amara knew better. She knew what kind of darkness was hiding behind the pretty walls. Fatima looked up from behind the counter, her eyes widening in surprise. Amara, what a surprise. Twice in 1 week? To what do I owe this pleasure? Amara forced a smile, her heart pounding. I was just thinking about you, Auntie Fatima. You've been so kind to my family, to Adeabi. I realized that I never really thanked you properly. Fatima's face softened, her lips curving into a gentle smile. Oh, my dear, you don't need to thank me. I loved Adeabi like my own daughter. Her death broke my heart. Amara's chest tightened, anger burning inside her. How could Fatima lie so easily? How could she pretend to care when she was the one who killed her sister? But Amara kept her face calm, her voice steady. You're too kind, Auntie Fatima, and that's why I wanted to come to you. I need a favor. Fatima's eyebrows lifted, her eyes curious. A favor? Of course, my dear. What is it? Amara took a deep breath, forcing herself to sound shy. I've been thinking a lot about Adeabi. About how happy she was before she passed. I remember how excited she was about the special treatment you gave her. She said it made her feel beautiful, like a queen. Fatima's eyes gleamed, a strange light flickering in them. I wanted her to look perfect on her wedding day. She was so beautiful, so happy. Amara's heart raced, her palms sweaty. I was wondering if I could get the same treatment. I want to feel beautiful too, just like Adeabi did. Fatima's face softened, her smile growing wider. Of course. I would be honored to do the same for you. You deserve to feel beautiful. Amara swallowed hard, her chest tightening. She was walking into the trap, just like Adeabi had. But this time she was ready. This time she knew what was coming. Fatima stepped closer, her eyes warm, her voice soft. When would you like to do it? Amara took a deep breath, her heart pounding. Tomorrow. Can we do it tomorrow? Just the two of us, like you did with Adeabi? Fatima's eyes gleamed, her smile turning cold. Of course. I'll close the salon, just for you. It will be our little secret. Amara forced a smile, her stomach churning. Thank you, Auntie Fatima. You're the best. Fatima's face softened, her voice low. Anything for you, my dear. Anything for Adeabi's sister. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. The way Fatima said it, it sounded more like a promise than a kindness. She turned to leave, her legs shaking, her heart racing. I'll see you tomorrow. Fatima's voice followed her out the door, soft and cold. I'll be waiting. Amara stumbled out of the salon, her chest tight, her breath coming in short gasps. She felt like she had just walked out of a lion's den, like she had just faced a monster wearing a human face. She hurried back to Uchenna's car, throwing herself into the passenger seat, her body shaking. Uchenna looked at her, his face pale, his eyes wide with worry. Are you okay? What happened? Amara's voice was shaky, her hands trembling. She agreed. Tomorrow. She's going to do the special treatment tomorrow. Just me and her. Alone. Uchenna's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. Just like she did with Adeabi. Just like she did with the others. Amara nodded, fear curling in her stomach. It's exactly the same. She didn't even hesitate. She was excited. Uchenna's face turned pale, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. She's planning to do it again. She's planning to kill you, just like she killed them. Amara's chest tightened, her heart pounding. I know. But this time, we'll be ready. This time we'll catch her. Uchenna looked at her, his eyes serious. Are you sure about this? You're putting yourself in danger. We don't even know how she's doing it. We don't know what she's using. Amara's jaw tightened, her eyes burning with determination. That's why we need to do this. We need to find out how she's doing it. We need to catch her in the act. It's the only way to stop her. Uchenna's shoulders slumped, his eyes filled with fear. I don't like this, Amar. It's too dangerous. What if something goes wrong? What if she hurts you? Amara took his hand, her eyes soft. I have to do this, Uchenna. I have to do it for Adeabi. I have to do it for all the girls she killed. I can't let her get away with it. Uchenna looked at her, his eyes filled with worry and sadness. You're so brave, and so stubborn. Just like your sister. Amara's eyes filled with tears, her chest aching. I miss her so much. I can't let her death be for nothing. I have to get justice for her. Uchenna's jaw tightened, his eyes hardening. Then we'll do this together. I'll be right outside watching. If anything goes wrong, I'll come in. I won't let her hurt you. Amara smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you, Uchenna. I don't know what I'd do without you. Uchenna looked at her, his eyes soft. You'll never have to find out. I'll always be here for you. They sat in the car, the air heavy with fear and determination. Tomorrow they would face the monster. Tomorrow they would find out the truth. And tomorrow they would fight for justice. No matter what it took. Amara stood outside Fatima's salon, her heart racing. Her hands were trembling, her chest tight with fear. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She couldn't back out now. She had to be brave. She had to go through with the plan, for Adeobi, and for all the other girls who never made it to their wedding days. Across the street, Uchenna was in his old red car, watching closely. His face was serious, his eyes fixed on the salon. He gave her a nod, his fingers tapping the steering wheel nervously. Amara knew he was worried, but she also knew he wouldn't let anything happen to her. He was her safety net, her backup. If she tapped her foot 3 times, he would come running. She took another deep breath, then pushed the door open. The bells above the door chimed softly as she stepped inside. The salon was dim, the blinds pulled down, blocking out the sunlight. It felt cold, like a shadow hung over the room. Fatima was waiting, standing behind the counter with a bright smile. Amara, my beautiful bride-to-be, I've been waiting for you. Her voice was warm, cheerful, but her eyes were cold, calculating. Amara forced herself to smile, her heart pounding. Good afternoon, Auntie Fatima. I'm so excited. I want to look perfect for my wedding. Fatima's eyes gleamed, her smile widening. Oh, you will, my dear. You'll look like a queen. Come in. I've prepared everything just for you. Amara stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room quickly. Everything looked normal. The chairs were neatly arranged, the mirrors spotless, the shelves lined with colorful hair products. But then her eyes fell on the old, worn bag under the counter. It was small and faded, the leather cracked and rough. It looked out of place among the shiny bottles and bright hair accessories. Amara's chest tightened, her heart racing. She remembered Uchenna's words, watch for anything strange. If she's doing something bad, she must have something she's using. Amara looked away quickly, pretending not to notice the bag. She forced herself to smile, her voice cheerful. Thank you so much, Auntie Fatima. You're so kind. Fatima's face softened, her voice sweet. Anything for Adeobi's sister. I want you to feel as special as she did. Amara's heart twisted, pain shooting through her chest. She missed Adeobi so much it hurt to breathe. But she kept her face calm, her voice steady. You're too kind. I heard Adeobi felt like a queen after her special treatment. I want to feel that way too. Fatima's eyes gleamed, a strange light flickering in them. Oh, you will, my dear. I promise. Amara's stomach churned, fear crawling up her spine. There was something cold in Fatima's eyes, something dark and twisted. But she forced herself to laugh, keeping up the act. I can't wait. I've never felt more excited. Fatima's smile grew wider, her teeth sharp and white. Good. Let's get started. She led Amara to the big chair in front of the mirror, her hands gentle as she helped her sit down. Amara's body was tense, her muscles tight with fear, but she forced herself to relax, to look calm and happy. Fatima tied a cape around her neck, her fingers brushing against Amara's skin. Her touch was warm and firm, but Amara felt a cold chill run down her spine. Her heart was pounding so loudly, she was sure Fatima could hear it. Fatima moved behind her, her fingers running through Amara's hair. Your hair is so beautiful, Amara. Thick and shiny, just like Adeobi's. Amara swallowed hard, her chest tight. Thank you. I always admired Adeobi's hair. She was the beautiful one. Fatima's fingers stilled, her voice dropping to a whisper. Yes, she was beautiful. So beautiful. Amara's skin crawled. There was something bitter in Fatima's voice, something hateful. She kept her face calm, her voice light. I want to be as beautiful as she was on her wedding day. That's why I came to you." Fatima's smile returned, her eyes gleaming. "You made the right choice. I'm going to make you more beautiful than you've ever been." Amara's chest tightened, fear crawling up her spine. But she kept her face calm, her voice light and cheerful. "Thank you, Auntie Fatima. I trust you completely." Fatima's eyes softened, her smile growing wider. "Good girl. Now just relax. This will be our little secret." Amara's heart raced, her fingers curling into fists under the cape. She watched Fatima in the mirror, her eyes following her every movement. Fatima walked to the counter, her fingers brushing against the worn bag. Amara's chest tightened, her eyes narrowing. Fatima's hand lingered on the bag for a moment before she reached for a bottle of shampoo. She turned back to Amara, her face calm, her smile gentle. "Let's get started, shall we?" Amara forced herself to smile, her voice steady. "Yes, I'm ready." Fatima began washing her hair, her fingers massaging Amara's scalp gently. The warm water ran down Amara's neck, her body relaxing against her will. Fatima's touch was gentle, almost soothing, but Amara couldn't shake the cold feeling in her chest. Her eyes flicked to the mirror, watching Fatima's reflection. Her face was calm, her smile soft and sweet. But her eyes were cold, empty, like black holes swallowing all the light. Amara's chest tightened, fear curling in her stomach. She could feel the danger, feel the darkness in the room. But she couldn't run. Not yet. She needed to find out what was in the bag. She needed to find out how Fatima killed Adeyabi. Fatima finished washing her hair, wrapping a towel around her head. She moved gracefully, her steps light and quiet. She walked to the counter, her hand brushing against the worn bag again. Amara's heart raced, her eyes glued to Fatima's hands. Fatima picked up a long, black cloth, her eyes gleaming. She turned to Amara, her smile soft and sweet. "Now for the special cream. It's a secret formula, so I have to blindfold you. No peeking." Amara's body went cold, her chest tightening. Blindfolded. Just like Adeyabi. Just like all the other girls. Her heart raced, panic rising inside her. But she kept her face calm, her voice cheerful. "Okay, I won't peek. I promise." Fatima's smile grew wider, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Good girl." She moved behind Amara, her hands gentle as she tied the cloth around her eyes, covering them completely. Amara's world went dark. Her heart was pounding, her body tense. She felt trapped, vulnerable. She couldn't see anything. She couldn't see what Fatima was doing. She couldn't see what was in the worn bag under the counter. She heard Fatima moving around, her footsteps soft and quiet. The air felt colder, the room silent and still. Amara's fingers curled into fists under the cape, her nails digging into her palms. She had to stay calm. She had to trust Uchenna. He was right outside. He was watching. Then she heard it, a soft rustling sound. Like fabric being moved. Or something sliding. Amara's chest tightened, her heart pounding. The sound grew louder, a soft, slithering noise. It was coming closer, moving towards her. She heard Fatima's voice, low and sweet. "Are you comfortable, my dear?" Amara's throat was dry, her voice shaking. "Weiss, I'm comfortable." Fatima's voice was soft, almost like a whisper. "But just relax. This won't take long." Amara's body was trembling, her heart racing so fast it hurt. She could hear something moving behind her, something smooth and soft, something alive. Then she felt it, a light touch on her shoulder. Cold, smooth, moving. Amara's blood ran cold. It was alive. Amara's world was dark behind the blindfold. She could hear Fatima moving around the room, her footsteps soft and quiet. The air felt colder, heavier, pressing down on her like a weight. Her heart was pounding, her chest tight with fear. She felt trapped, vulnerable, and completely at Fatima's mercy. She tried to calm herself, and tried to breathe slowly. She reminded herself of the plan. Uchenna was outside, watching. If anything went wrong, she just had to tap her foot 3 times. But she couldn't give herself away too soon. She had to see what Fatima was doing. She had to find out the truth. She heard a rustling sound like fabric being moved. Her muscles tensed, her heart racing. The sound was coming from behind her, near the counter, near the old, worn bag. Amara held her breath, her fingers curling into fists under the cape. She wanted to rip off the blindfold, to run out of the salon, and never look back. But she forced herself to stay still, to play along. She was almost there. Almost at the truth. The rustling sound grew louder, a soft, slithering noise that sent chills down her spine. It was smooth, rhythmic, almost like something was sliding or crawling. Amara's stomach turned, and fear crawled up her spine. She remembered Uchenna's words. If she's doing something bad, she must have something she's using. The slithering noise moved closer, circling behind her. Amara's chest tightened, her heart pounding. It was moving, sliding over the floor, coming closer. Then she felt it, a cold, smooth touch on her shoulder. It was light, almost gentle, but it was moving. It was alive. Amara's blood ran cold, her body freezing in fear. Her heart stopped, her breath catching in her throat. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it. Something cold and smooth was crawling on her shoulder, its body sliding over her skin. She bit her lip, holding back a scream. She wanted to rip off the blindfold, to jump out of the chair and run. But she forced herself to stay still, to keep playing her part. She needed to know what it was. She needed to find out what Fatima was doing. Fatima's voice was soft, almost sweet. "Are you comfortable, my dear?" Amara's throat was dry, her voice shaking. "Weiss, I'm comfortable." Fatima's voice was low, almost like a whisper. "Good. Just relax. This won't take long." The cold, smooth thing moved, sliding down her shoulder and wrapping around her arm. It was heavy, its body warm and muscular. Amara's heart raced, her chest tightening. She could feel its scales, rough and smooth at the same time. It was curling around her arm, tightening slowly, squeezing her skin. It was a snake. Amara's blood ran cold. There was a snake on her arm. It was alive, moving, curling around her, tightening its grip. She wanted to scream, to rip off the blindfold, to shake it off and run. But she stayed still, her body frozen in fear. She could hear Fatima moving behind her, her footsteps light and graceful. She heard the rustling sound again, then a soft hiss, cold and sharp. There was more than one snake. Amara's chest tightened, panic rising inside her. She could feel the snake on her arm, its body tightening, squeezing her skin. She could feel its head moving, sliding up her shoulder, its scales rough against her neck. She heard another hiss, closer this time, near her ear. Her blood ran cold, her body trembling. She was surrounded by snakes. Fatima's voice was soft, gentle. "You're so beautiful, Amara. Just like Adeabi." Amara's heart stopped, her body freezing in fear. She felt the snake's head move closer, its cold body curling around her neck, tightening slowly. It was heavy, warm, its breath cold against her skin. Fatima's voice dropped to a whisper, low and cold. "Too beautiful." Amara's chest tightened, her breath coming in short gasps. She could feel the snake's body tightening, squeezing her neck, cutting off her air. Her hands curled into fists under the cape, her nails digging into her palms. She had to stay calm. She had to think. She had to get out of there. She remembered Uchenna's words. "If you feel even a little bit of danger, give me the signal. I'll be watching." Her foot twitched, her body trembling. But she couldn't tap her foot. Not yet. If she moved too soon, Fatima would know something was wrong. She had to be smart. She had to wait for the right moment. Fatima moved closer, her breath cold against Amara's ear. Adeabi was beautiful too, but beauty is a curse. Amara's heart raced, her body tense. She could feel the snake's body tightening, squeezing her neck, cutting off her air. She was shaking, her body trembling. She couldn't breathe. Fatima's voice was cold, empty. "Beauty is a lie. It makes people cruel. It makes people hate." Amara's chest tightened, her vision going dark. She could feel the snake's head moving, its cold tongue flicking against her skin. Her heart was pounding, her lungs burning. She couldn't breathe. Fatima's voice was low, a whisper. "Beauty made me invisible, but now I'm the one who decides who gets to be beautiful and who doesn't. Amara's chest burned, her body trembling. She could feel the snake's body tightening, squeezing her neck, crushing her throat. Her vision was fading, her mind spinning. She was going to die. Her foot twitched, her muscles tightening. She was running out of time. She had to give the signal. She had to get out of there. Her foot tapped once, twice, 3 times. She held her breath, her body trembling. Would Uchenna see it? Would he come for her? Or was she going to die just like Adeabi? The snake's body tightened, its scales rough against her neck. Amara's vision blurred, her chest burning. She couldn't hold on much longer. Then she heard it, a loud crash, the door bursting open. Get away from her! Uchenna's voice was sharp, angry. His footsteps were heavy, his body slamming into Fatima. The snake's body loosened, its grip slipping from her neck. Amara gasped, her lungs burning as air rushed back into her chest. Her hands flew to the blindfold, ripping it off. The room was spinning, her vision blurry. She could see Uchenna wrestling with Fatima, his face twisted with anger. Fatima was screaming, her eyes wild, her hands clawing at his face. Amara's body was weak, her legs shaking. She tried to stand, but the world tilted, her body falling sideways. She hit the floor, her head spinning, the room growing dark. Her eyes fluttered, her vision fading. She could see the snake slithering away, its body disappearing under the counter. She could hear Fatima screaming, her voice echoing in the room. Then everything went black. Amara's head was spinning, the room dark and blurry. Her throat burned, her neck aching from where the snake had tightened around her. Her body felt weak, her legs trembling as she tried to push herself up. She could barely breathe, her chest heaving as she sucked in air. The sounds around her were loud and chaotic, shouting, crashing, hissing. She could hear Uchenna's voice, sharp and angry. Let her go, Fatima. It's over. Amara blinked, her vision clearing. She saw Uchenna wrestling with Fatima near the counter. Fatima's face was twisted with rage, her eyes wild and dangerous. Her hands were clawing at Uchenna's face, her nails sharp and dirty. You don't understand. Fatima screamed, her voice breaking. They deserved it. They all deserved it. Uchenna's jaw was tight, his arms wrapped around Fatima, trying to hold her still. You killed them. You killed Adeabi. Fatima's eyes blazed with fury. She was beautiful. Too beautiful. Just like the others. They all deserved to die. Amara's chest tightened, her heart racing. She felt cold, her body shaking. Fatima wasn't just dangerous. She was crazy. Completely, terrifyingly crazy. She pushed herself up, her body weak and wobbly. Her eyes flicked to the worn bag under the counter. It was open, the zipper pulled back. She could see movement inside, the shiny, dark scales of another snake slithering out. Her blood ran cold. There were more snakes. She stumbled towards the door, her legs shaking. Uchenna, we have to get out of here. Uchenna's eyes widened, his head whipping around. He saw the snake sliding out of the bag, its body long and thick, its eyes cold and dark. Oh no! Fatima's lips curled into a wicked smile. You can't escape. They obey me. They do whatever I say. She let out a low hiss, her tongue flicking between her teeth. The snake lifted its head, its eyes fixed on Amara. Its body curled, its muscles tensing. Amara's heart stopped. It was going to strike. Run! Uchenna shouted, his voice sharp and panicked. Amara, run! Amara's body moved on instinct, her legs pumping as she ran towards the door. She heard the snake hiss, the sound cold and sharp, echoing through the room. She reached the door, her fingers fumbling with the lock. It was stuck, the metal jammed tight. Her heart raced, panic rising inside her. She pulled harder, her body shaking. It won't open. Uchenna! Uchenna kicked Fatima away, his face twisted with anger. Get away from her! He ran to Amara, his hands wrapping around the door handle, his muscles straining. He pulled hard, his jaw clenched, his face red. The door flew open, the bright sunlight flooding the dark room. Amara's eyes burned, her head spinning. She stumbled outside, her body weak and shaky. Uchenna grabbed her arm, pulling her towards the street. Come on. We have to get away from here. They ran, their feet pounding against the pavement. Amara's legs were trembling, her chest burning. She could hear Fatima's voice behind them, her scream sharp and wild. You can't escape. I'll find you. I'll kill you just like I killed her. Amara's blood ran cold, her heart racing. She ran faster, her body moving on pure fear. She didn't stop until they reached Uchenna's car, his hands fumbling with the keys. They jumped inside, Uchenna's hands shaking as he started the engine. The car roared to life, the wheels screeching as he sped away. Amara looked out the window, her eyes wide with fear. Fatima was standing in the doorway of the salon, her face twisted with rage. Her eyes were dark, empty, like black holes swallowing all the light. She was smiling, her lips curled into a wicked grin. Amara's chest tightened, her body shaking. She could still feel the snake's cold body around her neck, its scales rough against her skin. She could still feel its weight, heavy and tight, cutting off her air. Uchenna's voice was shaking, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Are you okay? Did she hurt you? Amara's voice was weak, her throat sore. She tried to kill me. She used snakes. She has snakes that do whatever she wants. Uchenna's face went pale, his eyes wide with horror. Snakes? But how? That's not normal. Amara's chest tightened, fear curling in her stomach. I don't know how, but she's not normal. She's evil. Uchenna's jaw clenched, his eyes hard. We need to go to the police. We need to stop her before she hurts anyone else. Amara's body was trembling, her heart racing. She killed Adeabi. She killed all those girls, just because they were beautiful. Uchenna's face twisted with anger, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. She's a monster. She needs to be stopped. Amara's eyes filled with tears, her chest aching. She was going to kill me too, just like she killed them. I was next. Uchenna reached out, his hand wrapping around hers. But she didn't. You're safe now. I won't let her hurt you. I promise. Amara's body relaxed, her shoulders slumping. She closed her eyes, her chest heaving as she tried to breathe. I was so scared. I thought I was going to die. Uchenna's voice was soft, his face filled with pain. I would never let that happen. I'll protect you, no matter what. Amara's heart tightened, her fingers curling around his. Thank you for saving me. Uchenna's eyes softened, his voice low. I'll always save you, Amara. Always. They drove in silence, the car speeding down the road. Amara's eyes were heavy, her body weak. She leaned her head against the window, her chest aching. She could still hear Fatima's voice, cold and cruel. You can't escape. I'll find you. I'll kill you just like I killed her. Amara shivered, her skin crawling. She knew Fatima wasn't lying. She knew Fatima wouldn't stop. Not until she was dead. She looked at Uchenna, his face set, his eyes burning with determination. We have to stop her, before she kills anyone else. Uchenna's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. We will. We'll go to the police. We'll tell them everything. Amara's chest tightened, fear curling in her stomach. Will they believe us? Will they believe that she controls snakes? Uchenna's face was grim, his voice hard. We have to make them believe. It's the only way to stop her. Amara's heart raced, her body trembling. She could still feel the snake's body around her neck, tight and cold. She could still see Fatima's cold, empty eyes, filled with hate. She knew it wasn't over. She knew Fatima wasn't done. And she knew the Real fight was just beginning. The police station was cold and quiet. The air felt heavy, the walls gray and bare. Amara sat on the wooden bench, her body tense, her fingers curled into fists. Her throat was still sore from where the snake had tightened around her neck. She could still feel its cold body, its rough scales rubbing against her skin. Uchenna sat beside her, his face serious, his eyes fixed on the door of the inspector's office. His hands were clenched into fists, his jaw tight. He hadn't said much since they arrived, but Amara could feel his anger, his fear. He was worried about her. She looked down at her hands, her fingers trembling. Her body felt weak, her chest tight. She was scared, more scared than she had ever been in her life. She had looked into the eyes of a monster and survived. But she knew it wasn't over. Fatima was still out there, still dangerous. The door opened, and Inspector Alisa stepped out. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and dark, serious eyes. His face was hard, his expression unreadable. "You too, come inside." Amara's heart raced, her body tense. She stood up, her legs shaking as she followed Uchenna into the office. The room was small and plain, with a wooden desk covered in papers. There was a chair on either side of the desk, and Inspector Alisa gestured for them to sit. Amara sat down, her back straight, her body stiff. She was nervous, her heart pounding. Would he believe her? Would he understand what they had seen? Inspector Alisa sat behind the desk, his eyes fixed on her. "Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." Amara took a deep breath, her voice shaking. "It's about Fatima, the hairstylist. She killed my sister. And she tried to kill me too." Inspector Alice's eyes narrowed, his face hard. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Uchenna leaned forward, his voice firm. "We have a pattern. Every bride who went to Fatima's salon for a special treatment died just before her wedding. My friend, Adeyabi, was one of them. And Amara almost became the next victim." Inspector Alice's face remained unreadable, his fingers tapping against the desk. "Go on." Amara's chest tightened, her hands trembling. "I went to her salon, pretending to be excited about my wedding. I wanted to see what she did to Adeyabi. I wanted to find out the truth." Inspector Alice's eyes were sharp, his voice cold. "You went there alone? Without telling anyone?" Amara's face turned red, her voice small. "Yes, but Uchenna was watching from outside. He saved me when things went wrong." Inspector Alice's eyes flicked to Uchenna, his face hard. "What went wrong?" Uchenna's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. "She attacked Amara. She used snakes. They came out of a bag she keeps under the counter. They were following her commands, like they were trained." Inspector Alice's eyes widened, his face twisting in disbelief. "Snakes? Are you saying she used snakes to kill those girls?" Amara nodded, her body trembling. "Yes." "She tied a blindfold around my eyes, then brought the snake out. It was cold, smooth, and it wrapped around my neck. It started squeezing. I couldn't breathe. I was going to die." Uchenna's fists tightened, his face pale. She was going to kill Amara just like she killed the others. She was going to make it look like a sickness, just like before. She knew exactly what she was doing. Inspector Alice's face was grim, his eyes dark. Why would she do that? Why would she kill her customers? Amara's chest tightened, her voice low. "Because they were beautiful. Because she was jealous. She said Adeyabi was too beautiful, just like all the others." Inspector Alice's face softened, his shoulders slumping. "Jealousy? That's a powerful thing." He looked at Amara, his eyes serious. "You're saying she admitted to killing them?" Amara shook her head, her hands trembling. "Not exactly, but she talked about beauty like it was a curse. She said Adeyabi was too beautiful, that she deserved to die. She's not normal, she's evil." Inspector Alisa leaned back in his chair, his face thoughtful. "This is serious. If what you're saying is true, then she's a serial killer. And she's still out there." Amara's chest tightened, fear curling in her stomach. "She's dangerous. She won't stop. She said she would kill me, just like she killed Adeyabi." Inspector Alice's jaw tightened, his eyes hard. "We'll find her. We'll bring her in for questioning. If she really did this, she'll pay for it." Amara's body relaxed, her shoulders slumping. She felt relief, but also fear. What if they couldn't catch her? What if Fatima came after her again? Inspector Alisa stood up, his face serious. "I'm sending officers to the salon right now. We'll search the place, find those snakes, and arrest her. She won't hurt anyone else." Amara's heart raced, her body trembling. "Be careful, she's not normal. She controls the snakes like they're her pets. Inspector Alice's eyes darkened, his face grim. We'll be careful. But we'll find her. He turned to Uchenna, his voice firm. Stay with her. Don't let her out of your sight. If Fatima is as dangerous as you say, she might come after her again. Uchenna's face was hard, his eyes burning with determination. I won't leave her side. I'll protect her. Inspector Alice nodded, his face serious. Good. I'll keep you updated. In the meantime, stay safe. And don't go near that salon. Amara's chest tightened, her body trembling. She didn't want to go near that place ever again. But she also knew she couldn't rest until Fatima was caught. Until Adeabi's death was avenged. Uchenna took her hand, his fingers warm and firm. Let's go. I'll take you home. Amara's heart ached, her eyes filling with tears. Home? I don't feel safe anywhere. Not while she's out there. Uchenna's face softened, his eyes gentle. You're safe with me. I won't let her hurt you. Amara looked at him, her chest tightening. She believed him. She trusted him. But she was still scared. They walked out of the police station, the sunlight bright and warm. It felt wrong, like the world didn't understand that everything had changed. That there was a monster out there, hunting beautiful girls. Uchenna's car was parked under a tree, the paint scratched and faded. They got inside, the engine rumbling as it started. Amara looked out the window, her chest tight. She could still see Fatima's cold, empty eyes. She could still hear her voice, sharp and cruel. You can't escape. I'll find you. I'll kill you just like I killed her. Amara shivered, her skin crawling. Fatima was out there, somewhere. And she knew that this wasn't over. Not yet. As they drove away, Amara felt a chill run down her spine. She couldn't explain it, but she felt like she was being watched. Like Fatima was somewhere close, her cold eyes following them. She looked at Uchenna, his face serious, his jaw tight. Do you think they'll catch her? Uchenna's eyes were dark, his voice low. They have to. We told them everything. They know who she is now. They'll find her. Amara's heart raced, her body tense. I hope so. I just want this nightmare to end. Uchenna looked at her, his eyes soft. It will end. I promise. But Amara wasn't so sure. She could still feel the snake's cold body around her neck, its rough scales against her skin. She could still hear Fatima's voice, cold and cruel. And she knew the nightmare was just beginning. Will the police find enough evidence to arrest Fatima, or will she escape justice once again? Can Uchenna truly protect Amara, or will Fatima find a way to get to her? What dark secrets from Fatima's past could explain her powers over the snakes? All these questions will be answered in the final episode of this story. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next.